Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Sword of Resurrection show with your host, myself, Philip-Muhamamd. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is a serious subject. We're talking about the death of Police Brutality 2012. This is part 2 of our series. It's very serious, the subject. We are not playing around. We are very serious. We are not advocating violence, but we want you to know that this show and all of our shows are protected by the Son of Man. We want you to know that we are serious about putting an end to police brutality. It has to stop. By all means, we must put an end to it. That means all of you good officers that are behind the blue wall, you have to stand up. I mean, life is short, so why not live for something as righteous of a cause as putting an end to police brutality from where you stand? So you be the clean glass next to that dirty glass that's in your precinct, and you stand up for what's right. Now, here's the main reason why you have to do this. Now, one day, I was walking by, and I heard a police officer say to another police officer, "Hey, you want a bean pie?" And then another officer who was a male said to that officer, "Yeah, the next thing you know, she's going to want to give her a final call." And they started making mockery of that police officer who wanted to give her partner a bean pie. Now, I'm walking by, and I said, "Oh, Allah, why did I have to hear that?" So I had to address it. I was wearing an FOI hat, and I went over to the police officers. There was about 20 of them. They were just coming out to do their duty. It was a night patrol. And I addressed them, and I said to them, "Who is your commanding officer?" And they looked at me like, "Whoa, who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'd just like to speak to your commanding officer." You know, there was no commanding officer, so I addressed them personally. And I told the police officer who said those terrible remarks to that young lady who was simply just offering a meal to her partner, what if you got her so upset that she hesitated after you called for backup? Then you would have caused your own death right here, tonight on the night patrol. So be nice and cordial to your fellow officers because they need you and you need them. There's no need to disrespect her just because she's different in one way or another. Your lives are too important for you to be that petty. When I addressed those officers in that way, they understood. Some of them walked away in disgust, you know, and the others, including the officer who violated by making fun of the other officer, he said to me that he was sorry, he was apologetic, and he said I was right, and they went on about their day. At that time, I had to go home with a couple of friends of mine because, ironically, there were police officers in front of my door. Well, not my door, but my building, where I live. And they somehow got dispatched there, and they were just looking at me like they wanted to start some trouble. So I got some friends to help me, and we all walked in the building, and I said, "Good night, officers," and went on in. You know, but the moral of the story is what it is. You got to have respect for your fellow officer. And if you're going to be a bad cop, know that you're only hurting the reputation of the police department, and you're only harming the other police officers that you think are cool with you and you with them. I mean, what kind of hypocrite would go out there and disrespect somebody in the street and have a badge on, knowing that you have 30,000 other officers who but one of them are bound to bump into that guy again if you're racial profiling. And if that person is drunk one day and strapped and had it up to here with what you did, and then a good cop comes along and he ends up getting hurt because of what you did, I mean, is that right? I mean, this is the attitude you have to have in the precinct, you know, when you're dealing with these type of officers. And you know that they exist, but you got to be strong against them if you're going to be a real protector of the people, you know, protected and serving and everything. But, you know, let's go to another case. This here happened in 2011, a year ago. It's very, very serious. Now, the title of the article, which was written by John Eljah from the New York Times, reads, woman at trial cites racism in son's detention by police. This was a case where Wilma Dor Almanor and Moreau Almanor were both arrested. I'm going to read the article to you as fast and as efficiently as I can within the time that we have, because I want to be clear about this. The article begins, when he was a New York police officer, Moreau Almanor heard fellow black men call him sellout and heard complaints about racial profiling by the force. His wife, Wilma Dor Almanor, 52, also knows a thing about the life of a black person in law enforcement. Her father was a city police detective for many years. Okay? It would seem a twist of fate then that the couple blames racial profiling for the detention of their 13-year-old son, which led to their parts in an altercation at a police station house in Harlem in March of 2010. So, excuse me, the article was written in 2011. It actually happened in 2010, 2 years ago. But it's very relevant because the case is being fought today, and this is real. They're still fighting the case today. So look here. The article continues. They are currently on trial in State Supreme Court in Manhattan. Mr. Almanor, 50, who is retired from the police department, is charged with felony assault, and Ms. Dor, his wife, with resisting arrest and trespassing. Testifying in her own defense on Tuesday, Ms. Dor Almanor gave her most detailed account of what happened inside of the 30th Precinct Station House. Ms. Dor Almanor said the younger of her two sons, Devin, was playing Xbox with a friend on Saturday night when the friend's mother called to summon him home to the Bronx. Her son left to walk his friend to the bus stop a little after 8:30, she said. A short time later, some of her son's friends, came to the house to say that Devin had been picked up by the police, she testified. They said the police had stopped and frisked him, she said. This happens all the time in my neighborhood, Ms. Dor Almanor said. I felt very angry. Now check it out. She was very pissed off. Naturally, her son got picked up. Now the article goes on. Her husband drove to the precinct, she said, and while he looked for a parking place, she went inside. So she was bent on getting her son. She didn't even wait. She looked, I'm going in there, you go park the car. Anyway, the article continues. She testified that she told the officer at the front desk in a calm yet pointed tone who she was and that she was here to pick up her son. She said a woman in the back of the station house told her that she would have to leave if she didn't calm down. Then, according to the article, Ms. Dor Almanor told them she was not going anywhere without her son. So now look, I don't know whether they had charges on the boy or not, but, I mean, literally, the guy's 13, a 13-year-old boy, his mother comes, they're supposed to release him, right? I mean, naturally, if you know a mother is going to be upset, that's her son. She's not there for no violence or nothing. She just wants a child. But you got some cops that are so eager to come at you, so you got to watch that sometimes. And your emotion can knock you right out of a victory, or it may take longer for you to get a victory because you were emotional, And I'm saying this generally so that you all can understand that the reason why I called this show together so that you can understand how to address police officers, especially those cocky ones, who just eager to bust a cap, who have been ill-trained. But anyway, she went, according to the article, she said, I know you're a racist, and she was talking to the officer who arrested her son, because I've seen you in action. Then the argument escalated, according to the article, and Ms. Dor Almanor said to Officer Dennis, she said, Officer Dennis told the other officers to arrest her. She said a female officer punched her in the mouth, and the next thing she knew, the officers were pulling her arms and taking her to the ground. They kept kicking me, Ms. Almanor said, stepping on my back, and they were laughing. Okay, they were laughing at her. You see what we're dealing with? It's not professional to be laughing at somebody while you're kicking on them. I don't know what else to call you but demons. If that really went down, that's really wicked. Anyway, she said, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know they were going to do this to me. Of course you didn't. Who would expect to go into a precinct and get beat down when you're going to pick up your son? That's just so unprofessional for something like that to happen in a precinct. And I'm not surprised, because I too am a victim of police brutality, and I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know a black cop was going to smash my face into a brick wall. I thought I could trust the brother, but it's not like that. Anyway, the article goes on to say, at that moment, she said her husband came in and said, "What are you doing? That's my wife." The police took him to the ground. And she said, well, he stretched his arms out and said, "I'm a cop." So he was submitted. He said, "Listen, I'm a cop." They went on to beat him up. And to make a long story short, Mr. Almanor was charged initially with a misdemeanor, and released. But the charges were escalated or elevated later to a felony. And they say, according to the prosecutors, they say that change came after they knew the extent of officers' injuries who were involved with the altercation. And so he got a felony charge, but the family is saying, the Almanor's family is saying that they only did that because that's a retaliation for the lawsuit that they filed against the city and the officers who were involved in the episode. Now, brothers and sisters, this is where we get into the reality of, on our level, that's a typical case right there. Emotions went wild and stuff happened, but when you get arrested by a cop, brothers and sisters, you don't want to end up like those who have, it's sad because, look at Timothy Stansbury in 1984. He opens a door and takes a bullet to the chest, unarmed. And the cop said he unintentionally fired his weapon. This happened, I think, on a roof. Yeah, on a roof. He just opened the door and got shot. So I'm not under any illusion. We are dealing with demons. And all you good cops, you have to help us. It's ridiculous how we are constantly being killed on the street by people who are either racist or insane and should not have a badge. So what's wrong with you, officers? Why won't you protect the people on the streets? Isn't your oath to protect and serve? It doesn't start in the street. It starts in the precinct, because you got problems up in there, and you're not doing enough about it to protect the people, the children who are being killed. We can go to the case with Ayanna Monet Stanley. They bum rushed her house in 2010, threw a flashbang in there, and pop, and killed a 7-year-old who is sleeping on her couch. When you see a cop who's got an itchy trigger finger, why don't you say something to him to encourage him to not be that way? Why is it that this gun-ho attitude prevails in the precinct? Don't you care about the future children who will be harmed because of this mindset? We have a history here of constant attacks. Look what happened to Amadou Diallo. A brother from Liberia. He was a salesman. He's going home. He gets stopped, and he gets lit up with like 41 bullets. That's emotion, man. Emotion is behind the trigger, not love. If you find somebody who's a cop who doesn't love to be a cop, you should report them. Report all violations of orders that you are instructed to enforce. You have general orders, follow them, because they're there to protect the precinct. They're there to protect the police officers. They're there to protect you. They're there to protect the people. And we expect you to do a better job. And you have to stop being punks. If you're going to be a cop, represent the people. Because we put you out there to protect our mothers, daughters, sons, our children, our aunties, our nephews, our nieces, our people. And everybody should be treated equally. I remember one time I was walking by and a cop rolled up on me in one of them little putt-putt cars. little three-wheeler things. And he said, "How are you, sir? Have a nice day." And he just kept riding. That's police work. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Not sitting around waiting for something to jump off. And if you see an officer that's like that, waiting for something to jump off, maybe you need to do something about that. Talk to him. Get in his head. Find out if he's got problems. You know? I mean, come on. I don't know what you got going on in there, but people are dying in the streets. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going to talk to you. When you get stopped by a cop, don't come with an attitude. Now, I know we have every right to have an attitude because of all the murders that we have seen at the hands of the police department. We have a right to have an attitude. In fact, human nature calls for the attitude because self-preservation is the first law, you know? And we really don't know whether we're going to get stopped and shot or stopped, arrested, stopped. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, I mean, we can go back to so many cases, man. Look what happened to Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party in 1969. They were sleeping. Cops ran up in there and shot them while they were sleeping and killed them. You know, and then they tried to say that they shot them in self-defense. Come on now, they were sleeping. So we know. You know, later on, I think that the family settled and received $1.8 million in a settlement for that case. But, I mean, that money ain't bringing their family back. But let me tell you something. If something like that happens to you, you better get that money and take that money and do something about the situation that our people are going through. Put that money towards that. Put that money towards that. Because we need money to promote positive things like what's happening right here. Imagine if I had $1 million to promote this show. How many lives would we save? Brothers and sisters, if you have a case against the police department or anybody who's done you wrong, take that money and put it towards doing good for the righteous. Rise above your emotion. It's true that money is not going to bring your loved one back. No, you're right. It's true. But it will save lives if we take that money and do something positive with it. Right? Okay. Now, if you get arrested by the police officer in the street, don't think that cop is the same cop that did you the other time. Don't erase all of that perception and treat him with respect or her. Don't be disrespectful. Don't run even if you're innocent. Don't give him a reason. Memorize the name of the officer. Don't say his name. And don't say his badge number. Don't say, I'm going to write your badge number down. Don't do that. Memorize it. You should also have in mind numbers of family members, and if you have a lawyer, you should have memorized that. So you should take this opportunity now to start memorizing some phone numbers, all right, particularly your lawyer, all right? Be careful, be polite, again, especially if it's a female. Don't give her the impression that you're some kind of chauvinist fool, like you think she's nobody because she's a female. Don't do that. You better treat her like you would treat a male officer and respect her and call her officer. Officer, don't say miss, don't say baby, don't say none of that stuff. Just say, officer, yes, you'd like to see my identification? Let's get into this. You don't have to sign anything, okay, and you don't have to say anything. But if they ask you for ID, that's not a problem, man. Give them ID. You know, if you don't want to consent to a search, you don't have to. But say something like, if you pat me down, you'll violate your law, but I don't consent to the search. And lift your hands up. And let them know, again, repeat it loudly, I do not consent to the search. But put your hands up. Don't, and put it in a way that's non-threatening, and let them know that if you want to search me, you're violating your law. I'm not violating. I just don't consent to the search. All right? And if you're in the back of the police car, you know, if they happen to arrest you, keep your mouth shut. Don't say nothing. When you get to the precinct, that's when you could talk. And the only thing that you should say is, I want my lawyer. I want a phone call to call my lawyer. I don't want to speak until I have a lawyer present. If you do not have money for a lawyer, naturally, that the city should pay for that. And secondly, keep in mind whether or not, remember, they have to reach your rights. That's the law. And if they didn't, note that down. You know, you don't have to mention it, but note it down because that will help you in court, that they did not read you your rights. And that could get you off completely. Hopefully you didn't do anything bad, because I'm not trying to give information to people who are out there committing crimes. That's not what I'm about. I'm trying to prevent people from getting hurt, like what happened to Ayanna, you know, and Ramali Graham, an 18-year-old who enters his home and gets shot in the bathroom by some gun-ho cops. Come on now. That was unnecessary. That happened in the Bronx. The brother was going in his house, and cops ran up behind him and blasted him in front of his grandmother and a little boy. Like, what is wrong with y'all? I mean, what are you pushing the people to do? This is just not right. Now, if you're in a car, all right, and the cops want to pull you over, find a safe place to pull over as soon as possible. Don't say, oh, I'll pull over down by my friend's house. Don't do that, because you don't want to do that. You want to pull over immediately. You don't want any problems. And they have a right to search your car if they feel that there's something in your car. You know, they have a right to get a dog to search your car. So don't get it twisted. It's different when you're in a car. They have some rights that you normally wouldn't see in the street if you were walking. Now, the only ones that should be talking is the one that is driving. If you're a passenger, you have the right to remain silent. And you can say that to the officer. Officer, I have the right to remain silent. I'm going to express that to you respectfully. I have the right. I know my rights. I have the right to remain silent. And, you know, I just don't want to speak right now at this point until I have unless there's a charge against me and I have a lawyer, I'm not saying anything. You have a right to that. But the driver, you have to give up your license. You have to give up everything, and please roll the window down. Don't act like you don't have to roll the window down. Don't do that. I seen somebody do that, and they got so frustrated they just arrested her. I mean, she was just bugging out. Like, look, I don't have to roll the window down. The cop was like, look, I can't hear you. I got a helmet on. And she was like, I don't have to roll the window down. And she just went back and forth with him until he, you know, and he obviously was trying to give her respect. You know, he just really wanted to have a clear conversation. You know, and her perception was messed up probably because of what happened to our people out there. So they have to understand, you cops got to understand, people are going to be somewhat aggressive in a sense because they're scared for their life. So you got to be extra cordial. It doesn't mean be a punk and be in a badge, but be respectful of the fact that people are scared of y'all, you know, because of what bad apples have done in your bunch. Now, keep in mind, brothers and sisters, that, you know, even the people in the back of the car, if a cop stops the car, the people in the back seats, they also have the right to remain silent. Now, you know, if you get a ticket, just take it nicely. You know, you can fight it later. Just remember everything. Remember everything I said. Memorize the badge number. And if it's not, and also if a cop doesn't write a ticket properly, that also can help you in the case. Okay? So be careful and pay the ticket. You know, all right? Just pay the ticket. You don't want them to pile up and then you lose your license based on that, all right? Now, if the FBI by chance come to your home or the IRS or anybody like that, you can refuse to be interviewed and you can lawyer up and you can tell them, listen, I'm not going to be interviewed unless I have a lawyer or until I speak to a lawyer. You know, and if they want to arrest you, be calm. Go with them to their house or whatever, wherever it is, not house, but, you know, the FBI headquarters or wherever it is, just go with them. But you don't have to say anything unless you have a lawyer, and they have to give you one. Now, if it's an immigration case, it's a little different. Don't assume that they know your immigration status. Don't give up any information. You don't need to do that. In other words, keep quiet. However, if they show and prove that they know your status as suspect, you could lose a lot of rights because you don't have the rights of a U.S. citizen. So, yeah, they can question you, and they don't have to give you a lawyer or anything. So it's very hard for you as a immigrant. So get your immigrant status up to par. And, again, about your ID, you should never leave the house without ID, y'all, because a lot of people get picked up because they don't have sufficient ID. And then they end up in the back of police cars and have to do a night in jail all because they didn't have ID. So make sure you have ID up to date and everything, okay? Make sure that you have ID. You know, I hope that you're getting something from this. And I'm really speaking to you who are police officers. I mean, people have had it. We are tired of seeing people get shot. We're tired of it. The other day, a sister got blasted after crashing her car unarmed. I mean, even, and in the media, they read her rap sheet to the world as if that's a justification for her being shot after she crashed the car. Now, if a lady is running from the cops and crashes her car, she's already down. You don't need to shoot her. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. But from what it looks like, to me, from what I've heard and read, what I've seen, and I don't want to assume, but what I've seen of the case and what I've read of the case, it looks like you could have done that better. Emotion can turn a situation into hell. The Honorable Minister Louis-Farrakhan teaches us to rise above emotion into the thinking of God. Man, y'all need to listen to Minister Farrakhan. Maybe y'all should just do that as cops in the precinct. Throw on a Farrakhan tape. You know, watch the tape that the speech he did, Justifiable Homicide, American Gangster. Watch that. Watch the other one, The Executive Decision. Watch that. Watch Black Youth in Peril, Justifiable Homicide, Black Youth in Peril. Watch that. Thousands of those were given, or hundreds of those, or maybe even more, were given away just recently as the FOI hit the streets on Monday nights all over the country to try to stop the violence. You know, brothers and sisters, you really need to do for self, because you really can't rely on a system that will not govern itself properly to serve you. You know, in the Nation of Islam, you know, we have rules and regulations. We have a restrictive law where, you know, we abide by it to the best of our ability, but we report all slacknesses and weaknesses. You know, and that's what you should do in the precinct if you're a cop. Report slacknesses and weaknesses, because those slacknesses and weaknesses will revisit you, because you are a body. You are a unit. Even though you're individual officers, you are a body. So anything one officer does, I'm sure you know that affects you. That affects the good officers on the street. When somebody gets beat down, I mean, come on, what about the case where the little boy threw the ball and hit the cop car and the cop shot him? I mean, I forget the brother's name, you know, who that happened to. You know, but what about that? You know, cases like that go unheard of that happen all over, you know? Come on now. We don't need to see that no more. We don't need to see another Timothy Stansbury. We don't need to see another Amadou Diallo. We don't need to see a Rodney King. God bless the dead. You know, the brother died recently, you know, in a mysterious way, you know, in a pool. You know, they say he drowned, you know, but it was very mysterious how that happened, you know. You know, all truths will be known. But, yeah, Chantel Davis, that's the sister that, you know, allegedly she was driving a stolen vehicle in Brooklyn. She crashed into a minivan, trying to evade the police, and then she was shot in the chest by the cop. You know, I mean, what was that? She crashed. Come on, she's not going nowhere. She's not going nowhere. You didn't have to shoot her. And the sin of it all is how the media read her rap sheet. How the media read her rap sheet out there and tried to justify the kill. You know, that right there, you can't put that small-time stuff on us, you know, media, you know. So listen, brothers and sisters, let's keep it real. The police brutality has to stop. It has to be put to death. We have to end it. We have to end it this year, all right? I mean, the hereafter for the followers of the righteous, as the minister said, as his followers, the hereafter is now. So we have to put an end to police brutality, and we have to put a great big start on love for self. Everybody out there, y'all should love yourselves and treat everybody as you would want to be treated. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that this show meant something to you. I hope that you take what I said seriously. And I hope you guys in the police department, I hope y'all get your acts together, man, because the people are tired of it. We need a new force out there. If you don't want to act right, come on now. Y'all get it together. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. This again was Philip-Muhamamd for the Sword of Resurrection show. Stay strong. And pass this along. People need this information. And listen, when you go back to school, everybody, y'all young ones, y'all know what to do. Be respectful to the school guards, all right? All right? Same laws for y'all, same thing. You have a right to a lawyer. Stay strong. Peace, all right? All right? Same laws for y'all, same thing. You have a right to a lawyer. Stay strong. Peace, all right? All right? Same laws for y'all, same thing.